So whenever I start a project, I like to erase back the lines and then use a paintbrush to kind of sweep away any of the eraser shavings. It just keeps from getting your finger oils on the paper as much as possible, and I do recommend it if you're just sketching. Now I'm doing the background. If you want to get this more watercolor opaque effect, lay down some water first, which is what I did. And then just like with these moon bases, blend a variety of colors until you get the gradient you're looking for. Just make sure to not get it too much on the background because you don't want any bleed out. Now if you want that more watercolor look, basically you want to get your paintbrush wet, but don't load it up with too much color. Basically, you want to go back in and add color as you need it, like I'm doing here, to kind of get the multicolor effect within the one color. If you load up your brush too much, you get a very solid color, but if you just add a little bit at a time with a little bit of water, you get this more opaque effect. You can mix your original color with water in a side dish. I just use the top of my watercoloring kit because they're the perfect size. And that will give you this more watercoloring look. Also, with the tone of this piece, I wanted it to be a little bit more muted. I'm playing with some ideas I've never used before, so I'm mixing all of my original colors with a gray or a dark green or just a more muted color to kind of take back the saturation a little bit. I'm laying down a foundation right now for some mushrooms I'm drawing. The foundation pieces are some of the most important pieces of your whole painting. I know that the detail seems like everything, and the detail is important, but the detail means nothing if you don't have a strong background. So it's really important to take a lot of time, fill in some shadows, fill in a strong base, make sure you're paying attention to what your foundation looks like so that your details will really pop. So for example here, I want a background to my mushrooms, like a grayish background, but I don't want it to be too much darker than the painting's background. So I'm matching the color tonally and in color. So now I'm going in and adding some more details to my mushrooms. I am in an experimental phase, if you will, of my art. I'm still trying to find, I guess, my voice and my style. So on this piece, I'm just letting myself play. Sometimes we just take our art too seriously, which if you are asking someone to pay for it, it is important to take seriously. But in order to grow and expand as an artist, you got to give yourself time to play. So this design that I'm making right now, for example, with a really strong, solid color is something I'm really comfortable with. I love doing these designs. They kind of make me think of energy fields for my characters. It's a shape I have fun with. It's a color strength I have fun with. But I also want to see what that looks like on a totally different piece. So I'm also trying a different technique here to make the lips and the face. I'm trying to not focus too much on the symmetry and just jump into it and trust my hand and trust my gut, which is interesting because I don't love the way this one turned out, but I do like the organic feel of it. It feels very easy, if that makes sense. It feels very intuitive, and it's nice that I can see without thinking about it. I do have some control over my hand, but this isn't really a style that works for me. I like a little bit more symmetry, a little bit more organized. It is nice though to let it go and just try, which I will use on a future piece for sure, probably more with plants or flowers or organic shapes. Just let my hand go. For example, here with these mushrooms, this line detailing is interesting because you can make a curvature of a piece just by adding in little tiny detail lines. This is a technique I have not really used outside of ink work, so I wanted to give it a shot in this. What I did is use a darker brown for the top detailing and then a darker green for the base instead of black. I think that it fits more with this muted palette. It makes it feel more watercolor based instead of acrylic. That's two different feels. So I do recommend playing with what kind of outline you use. Now, for example, with this guy, I'm using black again for the eyebrows and the eyes, but I'm measuring them a little bit more thoughtfully as I go. So while I'm making this kind of wider, organic feeling tear stream, I'm also comparing it a little bit more side to side instead of just going for it. I'm also not loading up my paintbrush too much. If you do a little bit at a time and go over a piece a little bit at a time with just a little bit of ink on your paintbrush, you get this more watercolor opaque feeling. Now I'm kind of comparing a little bit more carefully where I'm putting my lines a little bit more symmetrically. Is that a word? More symmetrical. And I do like a lot more the way that this feels. So for a face, even if it's not a photorealistic face, I think I prefer the symmetry, but for the organic shape, I think I just prefer going for it, which honestly are things that you don't discover about yourself and your own art unless you just give it a shot and just try it, just play. Also with the freckles, because I know that's like very fun to paint at the moment, I'm realizing the thinner the brush, the better, so that you can control how dark and how light the freckles are. I would say look at some pictures of people with freckles. You can follow a organic, which I guess is the word of this video, organic pattern. Oh, and you have to add a third eye. I mean, of course, I don't think it's a Monique exploration painting without a third eye. It's like my go-to jam right now. Highlighting for the very, very, very end, when you're realizing, okay, I think I'm done with this piece, then highlight. Don't jump the gun on highlighting because it could get really muddy really fast. So I'm just going in and adding some shadowing to my mushrooms. I just want to make them look a little bit more realistic, even though they're more of this kind of mythical shape and coloring, but I can still add in a little bit of detail just to make them pop. So around the base and on the sides, just to see where lighting is coming from. On this third moon, I decided to go in with all of the line work first, then overlay the color just to see what that looked like. I never really approach a face like this, but I thought I'll just see what it looks like. Didn't love it, but again, you wouldn't know that until you just give it a shot. If you're not sure how to show emotion on a drawing, I suggest literally making it with your own face and feeling your face, and or have a mirror next to you. So that's why I added the wrinkling around the eyebrows and the downward slope of the mouth, because I was looking at myself making that face. I always work off of a reference, whether it's myself or some pictures I look at, just to make sure what I'm drawing makes sense. Oh, sorry, I flipped my camera on accident. So I'm just adding in the coloring on this last moon. I like the way the eyelids came out. The rest of it is okay, but I do like the detailing of the background that I'm about to add. I think this is really fun, which I've discovered in my last few pieces that I enjoy. And here's the final product. I am obsessed with the color grading within the moons. This red one kind of had some bleed out because I was a little bit impatient and I don't like the way that one bled. However, I also had some bleed out in my mushrooms, which I did like. So that's kind of interesting. I didn't realize I liked that organically. Love this moon. Definitely going to be her own piece. If you liked that video, please consider supporting me on Patreon. I will be releasing exclusive content there, such as step-by-step tutorials, exclusive coloring pages made by me, and early access to merch such as stickers, prints, and possibly t-shirts. Let's see what happens. Just by watching this video, you're supporting me. I couldn't do this without you. If you want to like, comment, share it with a friend, that'd be amazing. And if you want to support me on a more in-depth level, please check out my Patreon. The link is in my bio. You can support me with as little as $1 a month in my tip jar. This helps me continue to make my work more full-time, which would be just a dream come true. Thank you so much for being a part of my weird alien psychedelic community, and I look forward to making more art with you soon.